Hello, hello. Welcome to a special edition of Compound and Friends with Zeke Faux. All right,
wow.
Zeke, I'm gonna do a quick intro. We're so excited to have you on the show. You broke me out of my bear market. We're gonna talk about your book in a second. Number go up. Zeke, for those of you who don't know, Zeke Faux is an investigative reporter for Bloomberg Businessweek and Bloomberg News and a national fellow at New America. He's a winner of the Gerald Loeb Award and the American Bar Association's Silver Gavel Award. He is also the author of Number Go Up, The Compelling Account of the Crypto Delusion, and how Sam Bankman-Fried and a cast of fellow hustlers turned virtual coins into trillions of dollars. Zeke, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on.
You know, I just noticed, it's kind of, I don't know if this is ironic or what, but Crown Currency is a publisher of this book?
I think they might have done that just for me.
Okay.
I don't even know. Yeah.
Is there a token attached to this?
I'm too late. I'm too late. Like I should have done that as part of the reporting. I had some ideas, but I missed my chance.
So before we get into all of this, I want to give the audience know that I am at least crypto curious. I believe in a lot of its promise, which has yet to unfold. So, because we're gonna talk about the bad part of it, and there's a lot of bad, but just don't shoot the messenger. Email Zeke if you hate him. Just kidding. All right. So we've come a long way from the Bitcoin white paper, huh?
Yeah. Well, we better have, because it's been 14 years.
So, all right. I want to start with this. A quote from Michael Saylor. And the book is about, man, it's about someone who thinks crypto, but I would say mostly about the shady characters. And there are a lot to choose from. You profiled a few of the biggest ones. I'm going to start with this quote from Michael Saylor. And this is an actual quote, lest anyone think that I'm just making up words. Bitcoin is a swarm of cyber hornets serving the goddess of wisdom, feeding the fire of truth, exponentially growing even smarter, faster, and stronger behind a wall of encrypted energy. Whoa. So I'll turn the mic over to you in just a second, Zeke, but you use this line in the book, and I feel like this is a great way to distill your experience with crypto as somebody who is reporting on it, who is a skeptic, a non-believer for reasons that we'll get into. What's called the bullshit asymmetry principle, which you wrote in the book, which is basically the amount of energy needed to refute bullshit is an order of magnitude bigger than to produce it. And when the number is going up, it's difficult. So sum up the last 3 years in 2 minutes of your life.
I mean, I had this idea that they're great at playing this, telling you this story that crypto is about to go legit. Mainstream adoption is right around the corner. And right as the beginning of this journey, 2 years ago, I fly down to Miami. I'm at Bitcoin 2021. And I start hearing people say all sorts of crazy stuff like that Michael Saylor guy. I mean, that was the conference. There was a guy on stage in a white suit yelling like, bleep Elon, bleep Elon. Like, and I'm like, I met all these guys who are just, their business plans made no sense. They seemed like total scammers. And then I'd ask them like, oh, how much money do you manage? And they'd be like, $10 billion, $20 billion. And I was like, I hadn't really wanted to write about crypto. I went back to my editor once I got in New York, and I told him, we could be investigating this for years. It's full of crazy guys, the kind of guys I love to profile. They all actually love talking and saying crazy stuff. They'll hang out with me, and they're all like, so many of them are up to no good. And cut to like 2 years later, I'm investigating crypto-fueled human trafficking in Cambodia, and I'm at Sam Bankman-Fried's penthouse in the Bahamas just before the cops got there. So it was like an adventure that I don't think I will ever match, but I'm glad I was there to see it, because I don't see there ever being a bubble like this again. Famous last words, but...
Hey, Zeke, you and I go back like 15 years. And when I was first starting to blog, a lot of what I was talking about were the scams. Like in hindsight, they were tiny. We were talking about guys running boiler rooms and stealing like $30,000. So when you say these are the kinds of guys I like to profile, I remember you writing all of these like really well-researched articles on like the boiler room guys, and that's how you and I originally met. And what those guys were doing was a joke compared to what you ran into in the last couple of years. You ran into stuff on the scale of billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions, maybe $1 trillion in some cases. We'll see. That seems to me like to be the big difference. And my question is, how do you ever go back to writing about traditional financial fraud ever again after the party that you've just witnessed come to an end? It's almost like anything you cover for the rest of your life might be anticlimactic.
I totally feel that way. I mean, when we met, I had learned a lot about these boiler room operators from your book, Backstage Wall Street, and you helped me understand their mindset. And I actually think, some of these guys, like we're talking about like Jordan Belfort type guys, because that kind of, it wasn't just in the 90s. They still kept trying it out, even though the returns got smaller and smaller. But some of these crypto founders were no better, but because crypto is such a great story and such a believable story, they could be like, this is the future of money. And instead of getting laughed out of the room, a lot of investors are like, great, I've heard so many stories about my friends getting rich on stuff like this. Where do I sign up? Here's $100,000. So,
well, that's an important distinction. The guys who were doing small-time penny stock scams, nobody ever made money. Whereas with crypto, people made oceans of money. And so the premise when you were selling something crypto related to the public, like at least you could point to, look at how rich everyone is. And that was true for like a very long period of time. People really did change their lives if they got in early enough. I don't think you could say that about any of the stock frauds.
No, definitely. I mean, I can think of people in my life who did very well on crypto because they got in early. The problem is that everybody thinks they're the one who's going to get in early and get out while the getting's good. Sure. And like the odds are against you. It's kind of why do you have the inside info? The guy who started it is the one who got in early. The venture capitalists who got in at the beginning, they got in early. By the time you're hearing about it, it's probably kind of late.
Zeke, you made a great distinction in the book about the difference between scams in the blockchain versus like the Madoffs of the world. You said running a stock scam is a lot of work. It requires crooked lawyers, brokers, and bankers to draft reams of securities paperwork, even if all the information in them is false. And that leaves a paper trail that pretty much inevitably leads to the scammers getting busted. Crypto didn't require any of that. All it takes is some rudimentary programming, which can be done by freelancers, hired online, and some posts by a social media influencer. And you yourself were almost, unless Vicky or whoever her name was, didn't realize that you were in on it, but you almost got scammed or attempted.
Yeah. So, and I like that quote that you read because I know, like, from my years covering Wall Street. Well, yes, thank you. Thanks for reading my genius words. I know some of these crooked lawyers. They made their whole career out of drafting these phony documents, and crypto would just put them out of work. Well, who cares about lawyers? Just throw out our coin. But yeah, the time that I almost got scammed, I was kind of playing along, but it started with one of these weird text messages that we all get.
Hi, Zeke.
Well, not hi. Mine was like, "Hey, David, how are you doing today?" And I decided to go along with it just to see what would happen. So I'm like, "Hey, I'm not David, I'm Zeke," and she's like, "Well, instead of being mad, why can't we be friends?" We started chatting. And I thought this might be a good way to investigate this kind of crypto scam. So I wanted to see where it went. She tells me her name's Zeke Faux. She starts sending me pictures. She's like a sexy young Asian woman whose face has been like so face-tuned. She looks like an anime character. But I kind of liked having this new pen pal, even if I know it was fake. But for days, she's just texting me all day. "How's your day? Good morning. Oh, like you look so handsome." I'm like, "Where's the scam?" And
just ask me for money already.
Yeah,
before I fall in love.
She starts dropping hints that she's good at crypto trading. She's got like this uncle who's taught her the secrets, and she starts sending me some price charts. And she's like, look, there's a great setup here. I'm going to trade this short-term node. And then she sent me a screenshot that said, oh, I just made like 50 grand. And I'm like, okay, like, are you going to ask me to play too? Like, when is this coming? Finally, I had to tell her, Vicky, like, it's killing me. I need to have a Tesla. It costs 150 grand. I just wish there was some way that I could make a lot of money very fast.
Lucky
and then, finally, she's like, okay, download this app. And she has me download this fake crypto trading app called ZBXS. And it looks just like a regular crypto app. I mean, there's so much like random stuff in crypto. Anything sounds plausible, right, to somebody who's gullible. And she has me download a real crypto app and send her, buy 100 tethers, which is like a normal cryptocurrency, send them over to her address for the fake app, and then we're going to start trading. And this is a scam called pig butchering. It's called that because they like to like fatten you up before they take all your money. And they'll show you fake gains in the fake app. They'll even let you make withdrawals. But the whole time they're sizing you up. They're like, how much can we take this guy for? Yeah. And once they've gotten you to send in everything they think they can get you for, they disappear. And people send in 100 grand, 500 grand. I mean, I talked to retirees, but also young people, smart people. They get, I don't know, you text enough people, eventually you get one.
So Zeke, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but it's going to be impossible after I say what I'm about to say. How fucking stupid do you have to be?
Dude,
I'm sorry. That's my opinion.
There's a lot of sophisticated scams out there. This is not sophisticated.
This doesn't sound sophisticated.
This is not that. I myself got scammed. I was on a Discord channel, and it was an airdrop that I got excited about, and I can't remember the details, but I lost a few grand. Mark Cuban today.
He just said 100 grand.
Mark Cuban today lost $900,000.
No.
His MetaMask wallet got, this is today. And as fate would have it, Zeke, literally an hour ago, I got a call from an unrecognizable number, and I was hoping a scammer, and I'm only kidding, but it was a scammer. So I get a call. Is this Michael Batnick? Yes. There's like all this noise in the background. And I'm like, who? Hello? Yeah, hello? Who are you? She goes, I'm so-and-so from Coinbase. I'm like, oh my God. The guy just smiling. I'm like, wait, from where? She's like, from Coinbase. I'm like, go on. And I'm like, I can't hear you. Close
What's
the
your
door.
Password?
Yeah, basically. So anyway,
so sophisticated.
She
ended all for dummies.
Stop. She ended up hanging up on me, unfortunately, because I couldn't find out what the scam was. But we're joking. But there's some really dark and sinister shit that goes on that you detailed in the book.
Yeah. So this is kind of the twist, and it kind of goes with what Josh is saying. Yeah, this usually doesn't work. You got to text like a million people before you find the one who's like,
it's a numbers game.
You know, the one whose like wife is dying of cancer and they're really lonely and they're willing to trust you. So the reason this works economically is that these scammers, the ones sending the messages, are themselves often victims, and they're people who they're often based in Cambodia or Myanmar, and the scams are run by Chinese gangsters. They post job ads. They lure people in with offers of high-paying jobs and customer service. People come from like all around the region: China, Taiwan, Vietnam. They'll come to Cambodia. When they're there, they're trapped. The boss is like, "You're not leaving this building. We're gonna beat you. We're gonna torture you unless you run scams." And so that's what makes the numbers work. The people who are doing this are really low paid and can like try and send messages all day long.
They're slaves
Literally.
to somebody who's making them do this.
And it sounds like, honestly, it sounds like a conspiracy theory. Like when I heard it, I didn't really believe it. But there are like whole office parks, tower after tower, floor after floor, filled with people who can't leave. In the book, I went to one in Sihanoukville in Western Cambodia. And these towers, they're like modern office towers that were built with balconies. But the balconies, you can see that they originally had like a low glass wall. Now they have metal bars welded on them to prevent the workers from jumping out and escaping. This particular area that I visited holds maybe 5,000 or 10,000 people. One guy that I
God.
talked to, like a crypto expert, estimated that $10 billion have been lost to these kinds of scams. And the UN actually just put out a report saying they estimate 200,000 people in Southeast Asia have been trafficked and been victimized in this way, mostly to Cambodia and Myanmar. So it's like a huge international issue. And the weird thing I found was that these scammers, in addition to selling you this crypto story, they always want the victims to send them crypto. They don't, like, Vicky didn't say, give me your Visa number, even though that would have been a lot easier for me as the, like, gullible victim. She went through this whole rigmarole, like download Coinbase or crypto.com, buy some Tether.
Because the crypto is
is
untraceable in a way that a credit card transaction is traceable. You're saying?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So you can.
So it's facilitating. Even if crypto is completely legit, this is facilitating a type of fraud that, the architects of these white papers maybe were not thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I found again and again, was that they hadn't thought about what was going on in the real world, what the consequences of this were. But criminals definitely find it super useful, and I even found it useful too. I was when I was in Cambodia. A lot of the book, I'm looking into this coin called Tether that Vicky Ho, the scammer, had me use. I'm bumping along the road on this bus from Ho Chi Minh City to Cambodia. I get across the border. I'm in this dusty casino town called Bavet that is home to lots of these scam compounds. I've seen YouTube videos of workers escaping from them. I've seen all sorts of. I mean, it's a big issue in the local media. Like, it's no secret. I've read all about this place. And I get there. What do I see in the parking lot? For a money exchange store that has right on their banner, like, we'll trade your Tether coins for US dollars. Something I'd never seen anywhere else in the world. And, like, doesn't prove anything, but it's like, this is a interesting coincidence.
Well, Zeke, I could hear pro crypto people yelling at the screen right now because it actually is traceable. But the problem is that oftentimes it leads back to places like Binance, and good luck getting any information out of them.
Yeah, and all these companies will say we comply with law enforcement requests, but I spoke with a veteran human trafficking investigator from Taiwan, and he was like, he had gone to Cambodia to rescue victims of the big fatty gang Taiwanese women who'd been trafficked to work on top of a mountain called Bokor Mountain. And he said, to work in these crypto scams. And he said that the criminals even bought and sold these women for Tether. And, like, yes, in theory, you can trace things on the blockchain, but it's sort of like a Swiss bank account. Each account is only associated with, like, a string of random letters and numbers. And this investigator was like, look, crypto didn't cause human trafficking. I've been investigating it for years. But when they used banks, at least I had some clues. What am I supposed to do with these, like, random string of numbers? It makes it a lot harder for me.
So, Zeke, what you did takes a ton of balls, going across the world to these shady places, confronting people literally face to face. And I remember when you wrote the paper on Tether, what was that, 2 years ago at this point or something?
Yeah.
Like, these people know who you are. These are shady characters, to say the least. This one guy that you mentioned, Giancarlo Devasini, is he the CEO of Tether?
He's like the boss. He's the CFO on paper.
All right. So this guy was an Italian. He's an Italian. He is an Italian, but he was a former plastic surgeon who somehow got into this. There's another guy at Tether, Van der Velde. This guy used to run a Chinese electronic exporter that claimed from the book, quote, if you dip a butt of a cigarette into Vitacool, when you smoke a cigarette, 80% of nicotine will be transformed into vitamins. I mean, these are some really crazy people. Yeah, right. Seriously. That's so. But
doesn't that sound like Josh? Doesn't that sound like an old penny stock guy?
I could write that pitch and sell an 80-cent stock. Wait, so here's my question: if you get into crypto as a profession, like, you have to have your passport in working order, because there's just a lot of international travel required for anyone that's like involved in crypto. Like, these guys are like on the fucking lam. Like, I mean, like, even at the highest levels, that they never in the same country more than 2 articles in a row. when they're being reported on. What is the story with this? Doesn't anyone stay in one place anymore?
Well, there's one place that, again, might just be a coincidence, but a lot of the top guys in crypto do not come to the United States. You haven't seen Binance's CZ here, who's like one of the biggest guys in crypto, facing all sorts of trouble with the U.S. authorities. Justin Sun from Tron is another like major player who you don't see him here, even though there are big conferences here.
The guys with Three Arrows.
Three Arrows guys, yeah, just like, doing shrooms in Bali, but they don't come here. That was the big hedge fund that blew up.
We want to get into Tether.
Wait,
So
hang on. Before we get there,
sorry.
just stick with this point of you confronting these people. So this guy, the Italian guy, you couldn't get a hold of him, but he sent you kind of a badass email, I must say. His reply to you was basically something, and I'm paraphrasing, but correct me if I'm wrong. Bees don't try and convince flies that honey is sweeter than shit. Was that? Did I get that approximately right?
Yes. And I love that message.
That's pretty good.
This came after I went to Switzerland to see his partner's art show in hopes that he would show up. This was a big waste of a week. He didn't show up. Then I went back for another week where Tether was hosting a conference. I had thought Giancarlo wouldn't come because he's kind of a mysterious guy, doesn't like to be seen by reporters, but I was able to finally see him there. I was glad I did, because then I was able to write in the book that he looks like Gargamel, the bad wizard from Smurfs. So then I sent him a message. I was like, Giancarlo, I know that like you probably don't want to talk to me, but look, I'm here. I want to hear your side of the story. I'm going to be at this bar. Come by if you want to say hi, and we can tell me your story. But he did not come, and he only sent me that message later while I was sleeping. And I would just say, there's, these guys are, he's a weird former plastic surgeon who found himself like a crypto billionaire. He's not someone who, I don't find these guys to be shady characters. I find them to be very funny. And I just think it's like a great story how all of these people who you wouldn't expect found themselves like overnight billionaires and like major players in this new crypto financial system.
Seems like there's like a random. What's funny about it to me, and I agree with you. Just because you made a lot of money in crypto doesn't mean that you yourself did something shady, but you had to have been willing to embrace the shadiness. Like if you own a ton of crypto at $300 Bitcoin, like you knew that you were embracing something that was very non-traditional, and you did so in size. And so you're definitely a quirky person, which is why we have so many colorful people as the crypto billionaires, contrasted with, let's say, the steel magnates of 1885. Like this crop of people is probably way more interesting.
John McAfee was a great example of that type of person, right? He said he would eat his own something if something didn't happen. But anyway, Zeke, you're an incredible writer. You wrote, as I thought more, just getting back to Tether, as I thought more about the giant volcano of crypto bullshit erupting at Crypto Bahamas, I realized that Tether was its molten core. Talk about Tether. For those who don't know, what is Tether? How did it get so big? Why is that at the center of so much of this deplorable behavior?
So I say in the book, I think of a lot of crypto exchanges as basically being like offshore casinos. And Tether is kind of like the chips. It's like if all the casinos in Las Vegas, all the like poker rooms in Macau, sent everyone to this one cashier to get their chips. And so a Tether token is always worth $1 because it's supposed to be backed by real dollars in the bank. And when I set out to explore this, Tether had sold about 50 billion of these tokens and was supposed to have 50 billion corresponding dollars in the bank. And the idea is that whenever you get these tokens, you send real money to get them, and whenever you want the money back, Tether's supposed to have it and send it back to you.
It's a money market token without the yield.
Yeah, no yield, which becomes important later in the story. And when I started out, it was this big mystery. Like Janet Yellen was calling meetings of all the top regulators to be like, does Tether really have this money? And if
because
not,
it was a lot of money in it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not small, so it better be backed by something, because
like $8
otherwise,
billion.
It's totally out of the reach of regulators, and they're not. They always say we're going to publish our audited financials, but they don't. So people rightly were sort of like, and they're looking at the guys behind it. You got Giancarlo, one of the founders. Brock Pierce is a kid from the Mighty Ducks. He plays Gordon Bombay in the flashback at the beginning.
1, 2,
Misses the
3, triple
penalty
deke.
shot.
yeah. So that makes
So-
perfect sense.
So I just, this is what got me. This is what hooked me on the whole crypto thing. I'm like, wait,
What, Gordon
Janet
Bombay?
Yellen, yes, Janet Yellen's having a meeting to talk about some coin dreamed up by a kid from the Mighty Ducks. Like, what has gone wrong with the financial system? Where, like, I actually,
Well, I don't understand what's not to like. You have Chinese gangsters. You have plastic surgeons from Italy, Gargamel, the kid from Mighty Ducks. Like, why is this so illegitimate to you? What is the problem with Tether, from what you've discovered, that our viewers should understand? Or what is the risk of it?
So at first I was really focused on this risk that they would not have, if it was revealed there was problems with its backing, there could be like
Yeah.
a run on Tether.
Which
Everybody
we've seen.
would dump their Tether. Yeah. Well, not exactly. They've always survived. Like they're
No,
holding
not with
steady.
Tether.
Wait.
I'm sorry. This
Yeah.
is important. What led to the crypto panic of 2022 that effectively wiped out the whole asset class was a stablecoin blowing up.
But it was different because Terra Luna, which Josh is describing,
I get it.
was a stable coin that was backed by an algorithm. When that cracked, they couldn't recover. Tether on the go ahead.
No, but that's a good point. That was essentially the fear, like that something like that would happen to Tether and it would crash the whole crypto system, which seems like it was actually a pretty reasonable fear given what happened, even though Tether itself held strong. And so I was trying to figure out, like, where's this money? What's backing Tether? I had a fun side trip to the Bahamas where I met the one bank that would say we were holding some of this money for Tether. It was run by the creator of Inspector Gadget, a charming Frenchman named Jean Chalopin.
Of course.
Have you seen Casino Royale?
Of course.
Yes.
Do you remember the scene when Daniel Craig emerges from the ocean, like all glistening and in
I
front of
recreated
the,
that scene last week in Huntington Beach. Go on.
There's a shot of a house where the bad guy's wife is looking at him like, that was Jean's house. So he's like he's kind of like a Bond character himself. And I'm like, okay, this is Tether, created by the Mighty Ducks guy. We got Inspector Gadget guy. He's the banker. I later found that that Tether had invested a lot of its money. They'd invested a lot of money in Chinese commercial paper, which
As one does.
Yeah, because at the time,
Well, you need
yields were
stability,
like 0.
so
Yeah.
Yeah, for stability.
yeah.
Yeah. So this whole time, I'm like, but that's a good question. It's like, why aren't people cashing in their tethers? It seems like, look, I mean, there's certainly some reason to question it. And you got USDC over here, which is the other stable coin, very similar product which is US regulated. And I think few could argue that that it's not at least apparently safer, although it ran into its own problems.
Zeke, SBF told you that Tether was generally okay. So listen, I'm gonna no offense, but I'm gonna take his word for that.
No, but why would somebody in a crypto brokerage account utilize Tether as opposed to USDC when moving in between different coins? Why would Tether ever be the stable coin of choice? It's
got to be all overseas money, right?
Is it more liquid, or is it?
No, I mean, yeah, I think it is. It's people overseas. I don't know what's stopping them from using other cryptocurrencies, but it's just become kind of like the default choice in a lot of places.
Everyone uses it because everyone uses it.
And I mean, I certainly saw the appeal in Cambodia. I went to a money exchange place in Phnom Penh, and I'm sitting there with like this Chinese guy with like a t-shirt and a big belly in front of me. Another Chinese guy walks in. He walks out with 50 grand under his arm in cash, a big brick. And I just I zapped this guy 105 tethers from my phone, and he gave me like a crisp $100 bill, no questions asked. Didn't know my name or anything, and I was like, oh, finally I'm seeing crypto's pretty cool.
It's being used in the wild. You saw it used in the wild.
Yeah, okay. and if you're in a country where there's really high inflation, it might be attractive as a way to hold U.S. dollars. I could see that too.
John, can we throw up these charts at Tether while I give I don't know if irony is the right word here, but so this is Tether. It's got about $80 billion in assets, and it cracked a little bit from the dollar. Next chart, please. I think it got, but not really, not as much as you would expect. Certainly when there was a ton of smoke surrounding this thing, and for reasons, maybe there really is $80 billion.
Look at what this thing. Look what this thing has survived. Other than May of 2022, it's $1. Like you can't say it's not.
So Zeke referred to it as, I think, chart off, please, maybe a financial cockroach. But here's a quote from you. I couldn't believe it. Even as crypto company after crypto company failed, Tether survived. It was more than a little frustrating. Back in 2021, I could have picked a company to investigate by tossing a dart at a wall full of crypto logos, and whichever one I'd hit would have probably blown up by now. Instead, I'd spent more than a year investigating one of the few that hasn't. So have you changed your mind at all that maybe there's just no there?
So let's say, imagine there had been a hole at Tether of like a few $1 billion. Well, now the situation's changed. Whatever assets they have, they say they've invested them in U.S. treasuries. It's been reported that actually Cantor Fitzgerald is holding a lot of those treasuries for them. And treasuries now pay 5%. So Tether's they say they got $80 billion. They can now throws off $4 billion a year. So
right, they don't need Chinese commercial paper.
No, they're done with that. Yeah.
They don't need it anymore. It doesn't matter.
So, and it's a tiny operation that is now one of the most profitable companies in the world. Their quarterly profits are higher than Nike's. Giancarlo, the plastic surgeon's a billionaire. And so I'm not saying that there was, but even if there was a couple $1 billion hole, they could earn their way out of it by now. So unless there was some really, really massive fraud, which would be then they could be in the clear. Now, I would say, though, that I'm definitely saving room in the paperback for an epilogue, because I don't think that this situation is really
not
sustainable.
Over
Yeah.
yet.
I can't see them displacing JP Morgan or that the U.S. government will let there be this sort of unregulated quasi-bank that allows
Zeke, just to explain to people that don't do any crypto stuff at all, the purpose of Tether is so that you're not converting back to actual dollars, and you're not trying to constantly move money from the crypto ecosystem back to traditional finance, then back to crypto. So people who are moving between various crypto things are not moving into dollars in between. It's too cumbersome, and it's it's anti-crypto to do that. That is the role of Tether.
It's dollars on the blockchain.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
And
that's why it's important. That's why it exists. That's why it has $80 billion in it. Nobody's investing in it to make money because it pays no yield and it doesn't go up in price. It's 100% risk. So the only reason you use it is because it's a utility.
Yeah. And now Tether, if you were holding your money in Tether, you could switch it to your Apple wallet, get 4%. So you have to really like Tether to keep it there and earn zero interest. But it was a really important way for people to get real money into the crypto world, because some of these exchanges had trouble accepting payments. They had no way for people to send them money. And instead they'd say, hey, go to Tether, send Tether your money. They'll give you these Tether tokens. Take those to my casino, gamble with them, and you go back the opposite way when it's time to cash out.
Okay, Sam Bankman-Fried, innocent?
No.
Tell without giving away everything that you have in the book. Give us some shit. What was going on there just before the cops showed up? Why did he like you? Why did they trust you, or why did they like you enough to talk to you?
He's Jewish.
Is that that's all it is?
I mean, Okay, well, so I gotta admit, like I went down there when things were going great, right? And I wrote a
Yeah.
story about him, and the first story was the thesis of the story was like at the end of the first section, I say, hey, this guy said that he only wanted to get rich so that he'd give it all away. Will he
Yeah.
really do that?
The
Or
altruism stuff.
yeah,
Right.
will he be altruistic in the end because he hasn't given it away yet? Or will this
was waiting.
pursuit of wealth and power corrupt him? I wasn't like I should have been there. I was there in time to be like, hey, this is a big fraud, but I didn't know that. I didn't write that.
Dude,
So-
nobody knew that. Nobody was writing that. He had every stamp of approval you could have in this industry. I'm around 25 years. I have never seen an entrepreneur in this space, in this industry, traditional or crypto or whatever, with as much universal approval as Sam Bankman-Fried had for like a couple of years. He really
Yeah.
had it. There was nobody was like fucking digging. We just accepted. Oh, this guy made it.
Yeah, but that's why when things were looking bad, his exchange had collapsed. $8 billion were missing. It looked like there was a massive fraud. I was like, hey man, can I come down and interview in the Bahamas? I mean, he's probably thinking, hey, this guy came down one time and I was running a massive fraud, and he wrote a nice story.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll do it again.
Zeke's gonna give me the old Bloomberg rubber stamp. Okay.
So
Yeah.
Zeke, there's a lot in the book. We don't want to spoil everything that we didn't get to, like you buying a mutant ape, and tons of good stories. But I do want to end this talk on a somewhat positive note. A lot of the book was not about the why behind Bitcoin, why it exists, the troubles with the current financial infrastructure. It was about the characters and Tether primarily. And it was wildly entertaining, and you wrote a great book, and I would encourage everyone listening to read it. But there were some stories this week that caught my eye that I wanted to get your take on. One was, so USDC, like one of the things that attracts people about this, like not the scammers, but the legitimate things, is that sending money internationally, I don't know what the rake is. It could be, I'm making this up. Is it 6%? Is it 8%? It could be a fortune to wire money.
Western Union, it's a lot.
It's ridiculous. So with these stable coins, you could send money instantly. There's effectively, the fees are very, very low, if any. So Visa, this is a headline. Visa to send stablecoin USDC over Solana to help pay merchants in crypto. JP Morgan unveils blockchain-based token for faster payments. Just before we started, there was one from Citi. Citigroup has launched a digital token and private blockchain system. Do you think that, maybe in a twist of irony, that the traditional financial system will slowly, or maybe not so slowly, migrate onto the rails of the blockchain? Like, is there going to be anything good that comes out of crypto?
I do think that. Okay, I don't want to be the one to hedge. I think that's unlikely. Like, honestly, I think I've been hearing these headlines for years, since the 2017 boom, and I've had all sorts of meetings with people who said things like this, and it hasn't happened. And so it's sort of like that mountain of bullshit thing that we were talking about. It's like each of these headlines, I can't tell you that there's nothing there. It would take a really long time to investigate, but like if I was a gambling guy, I would bet that nothing comes of any of those things. That said, I think if there is anything that comes out of crypto, it will be behind the scenes. It won't involve, we won't even know about it. It's not going to affect our lives, and it's not going to mean that we start using that. It might not even result in like Solana tokens being valuable, or us or these companies being good investments. If there's some use of the technology, it could be like some sort of back office thing that doesn't really affect us.
People were saying in 2017, like there's a universe in which blockchain gets adopted as this like ledger system that's just more efficient than centralization, but a coin doesn't necessarily have to go up. The Andreessen people pushed against that. They said, no, you don't understand. If blockchain gets adopted at scale, there's going to be so much money running through all these systems that the coin is going to have to go up in price just to accommodate the dollar figures of commerce. So that was like the intellectual reason why number go up, because of this like adoption at scale. But it sounds like you don't fully buy into the premise.
What you're saying is true, and they would have to invent some sort of use case that's going to bring in the mainstream. And what I saw from 2 years, 2 years going down this rabbit hole, I didn't see anything that would get my mom to open a crypto wallet. And you saw that, showed that other headline earlier, Mark Cuban lost $1 million.
I'm not on Twitter. What happened with this?
I didn't read the article. What happened?
Does it matter?
He has used one of the most popular crypto wallets, MetaMask. He clicked the wrong link, and like MetaMask is a great. You can send USDC real fast with that, which is cool. But he clicked the wrong link, and his $1 million is gone. And whatever, he doesn't care. But personally,
why did he come out and complain about MetaMask? Did he want to see the manager?
He must have been. He must have been.
Dude, worry about building around Luka before he pops his Achilles. What else happened today? Anything else worth getting into while we have
today?
Zeke? What else blew up today? Yeah. Dude, let me ask you a question, Zeke. What's the number one thing that people reading the book will come away with it that maybe they didn't go into reading the book with? What's something that people what's the reason people there's a bunch of books on crypto. I'm definitely reading yours because you're my man. But why should the public choose to spend time with you on this topic?
So, all right, maybe you're getting at the elephant in the room, which is Michael Lewis, who's also writing a book about crypto. And I was a little worried.
I don't know.
I was a little worried about that when I set out. But I'm telling you that I read my own book once, and I'm like, you know what? This book rules. Nobody's going to write a better book about crypto. It's really funny. It's a great experience to read it. And don't wait for the movie. Read it now. You're going to love it. And that's why.
It is funny. I can not to spoil, but we were on the airplane, and I showed this to Josh. First sentence of the book. I'm not going to lie. Sam Bankman-Fried told me this was a lie. Zeke, well done.
You have a very droll sense of humor. You're funny. You have a funny way of talking about things, and I think people are going to enjoy the book. So, all right, so everybody go out and get your copy of Number Go Up by Zeke Faux, Inside Crypto's Wild Rise and Staggering Fall. And, Zeke, we want to wish you the best of luck. We hope people buy the book. We hope they make it into a film. We hope somebody very handsome plays you wandering around Cambodia. And and thanks again for being part of the show. Where can people follow you on social media? You're on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Zeke Faux, Faux. So check me out there.
All right, my man. Congratulations. Everybody hit that like button. Leave comments, leave ratings, leave reviews, read Zeke's book. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.